I've long known that Gunyenji, the CEO's girlfriend, sees me as a substitute for her white moonlight. I'm well aware of my place. Lately, besides being more clingy in bed, Gunyenji has grown increasingly cold towards me during the day. She often stares blankly at her phone, and whenever I send her long voice messages, her replies are always just a few words. I know. Okay. Oh. She promised me 20,000 yuan in pocket money every month, but I haven't received it for 2 months. Every time I ask her ingratiatingly, her face immediately darkens, and her eyes hold an emotion I can't read. Hui, are you only with me for money? I pout and don't answer. What else would it be for? If not for money, would I have spent 3 years waiting on you hand and foot like a sycophant? Sure, you're beautiful, but don't you know your own temper? These past few days, you've demanded it 7 times a night. If I don't leave soon, I'll lose my life. Besides, dealing with your icy face every day is suffocating, okay? I think. I've made almost 8 million over these 3 years anyway. If she's not willing to give more, there's no need for me to stay and waste my warmth on her coldness. According to the logic of those Yangshi, tomato, abusive novels, if I don't take the hint and let go now, once her white moonlight comes back, being physically and emotionally tortured will be the least of my worries. I might even end up having my kidney or heart dug out. Just thinking about it is terrifying. Better to cut ties quickly. My life matters most. Just as I'm about to confront Gunyenji and break up, I happen to see her getting out of a strange car, draped in a man's black suit jacket. I look at the man stepping out of the driver's seat. His face is 50% similar to mine, and freeze for a moment. Is Gunyenji's white moonlight, Cheng Shubai, really back? I stand by the villa window, watching Cheng Shubai gallantly open the car door for Gunyenji, his fingers brushing her shoulder intentionally or not. Gunyenji flinches subconsciously. I don't pay attention to these details, but a surge of ecstasy wells up in my chest. Great. Thank goodness. The replacement has finally arrived. Gunyenji was still a virgin when she got together with me. I didn't lose out. This woman is hot and cold at the same time. It's exhausting. I never had any intention of spending the rest of my life with her. I had already been wondering how to bring up a breakup in a way that seemed natural. I couldn't let Gunyenji realize that I'd wanted to bail for a long time. Now, this was like finding a pillow just as I was getting sleepy. I had to fight to keep from laughing out loud. The moment Gunyenji stepped through the door in her high heels, I deliberately darkened my expression and glared at her. After psyching myself up for 3 seconds, I lunged to my feet and pointed a finger at her, shouting, "Gunyenji, who was that man just now? Are you cheating on me? You're such a cheat. Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" I clutched my chest as I spoke, putting on a performance that looked truly heartbroken. Gunyenji's face turned pale for a split second, her eyes filled with panic. She instinctively tried to defend herself. What? What man? Ae, what are you talking about? There wasn't any man. I was taken aback. I didn't expect her to actually try to lie her way out of it. Hadn't she always maintained such a superior, aloof attitude? Gunyenji, don't lie to me. I saw everything. Is there any point in denying it now? Gunyenji's eyes flickered, her expression turning sour. Oh, you mean just now? That was just an ordinary friend. Ae, what are you making a scene for? I work hard every day, and I'm exhausted. Can you stop making these baseless assumptions about me? I looked at her, my gaze dark. An ordinary friend? You have your own car and a driver. Why would you need him to drive you home? An ordinary friend, yet you're wearing his suit jacket? Gunyenji, do you think I'm an idiot? Gunyenji was rendered speechless. She gripped her handbag until her knuckles turned white, and only after a long silence did she manage to choke out a response. Wei, did you take the wrong medicine today? I'm tired, and I don't want to argue with you. She turned to go upstairs, but I grabbed her and yanked her back. Don't go, I said in a low voice, filled with feigned anger and grievance. Gunyenji, it's been 3 years. I've stayed by your side for 3 whole years. When you're happy, you treat me like a dog, summoning me at your beck and call. When you're not, you just give me a cold shoulder. I, Hui, may not have as much money as you or such a prestigious background, and maybe I don't have much of a backbone, but I'm still a man. Tell me, who exactly was that man who dropped you off just now? She jerked her hand away, and to my surprise, her eyes turned red. Do you have to push me like this? Her voice trembled. I told you, He's just an ordinary friend. He just returned to the country last night. We met by chance today, and he was just dropping me off. The suit is only because the air conditioning in his car was too cold. I just grabbed it to drape over myself. It's as simple as that. Are you satisfied now? Her chest heaved violently after she spoke, as if she were forcibly suppressing her emotions. Just friends. If I hadn't known the truth long ago, I might have actually believed her. 3 years ago, the GU Group faced a massive crisis. They were slapped with a staggering 2.98 billion yuan fine by the authorities, and their capital chain nearly snapped. Her, White Moonlight, Cheng Shubai, chose to abandon her and flee abroad at the first sign of trouble. At that time, Gu Nianji was at the airport, sobbing uncontrollably. Someone recorded the scene and posted it on social media. With the combination of a melodramatic high-society love story and Gu Nianji's breathtaking beauty, the short video went viral instantly. I happened to scroll past it, staring at the screen at the beautiful So, crying like a pear blossom in the rain. I touched my own face, my heart pounding wildly. Cheng Shubai had run away, leaving behind a mess and a heartbroken heiress. And I, a poor kid who had just graduated as an acting major with less than 20,000 in savings, earned from working as a background extra during college, actually shared a 50% resemblance with Cheng Shubai. An audacious idea formed in my mind. I spent 3 days gathering every piece of information on Gu Nianji, from her lifestyle habits and preferences to the details of every member of the Gu family. From what time she left her house every day to where she liked to work out and drink coffee. I knew it all by heart. Then, I meticulously choreographed several chance encounters. When she was running at the gym, I'd be doing pull-ups shirtless right beside her. When she went to a cafe, I would sit across from her in a spot where the sunlight caught the profile of my face perfectly. Every time she ran into me, she would lose her composure. Her gaze would shift from shock to complexity, eventually turning into something misty and longing. I knew I had made the right gamble. It continued until she had too much to drink at her usual bar and stumbled right into my arms as she left. Everything after that happened naturally. That very night, she pulled me back to her villa. She was exceptionally wild that night. To my surprise, it was actually Gu Nianji's first time. She bought me clothes, luxury watches, and supercars. Every month, she would transfer 200,000 yuan to my account like clockwork. Her only request was for me to never leave her. Since she was my benefactor, I naturally provided impeccable emotional value. In these past 3 years, I doted on her to the extreme. No matter what she asked for, I would find a way to satisfy her immediately. Gu Nianji was very clingy with me, especially in bed. In the heat of passion, she would hold me tightly, her eyes hazy as she called out, over and over again. She held me as if she were afraid I would disappear the moment she let go. I knew who she was really looking at through me. The person she hugged and kissed was always just Cheng Shubai's shadow. I didn't care. I was an actor by profession. As long as the money was right, I would play any role. But now, I couldn't quite figure Gu Nianji out. Since she loved Cheng Shubai so much, given how she had been so desperate for him back then, why was she lying to me now, calling him an ordinary friend? What kind of move was this? No, whatever she was playing at, we had to break up today. According to the logic in those tomato web novels, once the White Moonlight returns to the country, the substitute never comes to a good end. Besides, 7 times every night lately, I couldn't take it anymore. I'd lost a significant amount of weight. Saving my life was the priority. I pried her hands off my wrists and took a step back to create some distance. Gu Nianji, you're saying that man is just an ordinary friend? Then what about last night on my birthday? I spent all day cooking a table full of your favorite dishes and waited for you. Yet you didn't come home until midnight. I'm asking you, were you with him last night? Gu Nianji's face stiffened, and she opened her mouth to argue. The next second, she suddenly rushed into the bathroom and began to dry heave. I didn't think much of it. Gu Nianji always had a weak stomach. Her gastritis was probably just acting up again. After a long while, Gu Nianji emerged from the bathroom. Her steps were unsteady, and her face was pale. She looked up at me, her gaze far more complicated than before. Hui, since you're forcing me to be blunt, I won't hide it from you anymore. Yes, I was with him last night. I hosted a welcome dinner for him. His name is Cheng Shubai. He is my white moonlight and my intended fiancé. He only just returned from abroad last night. Let me tell you, the position of Gu Nianji's husband will belong only to him. If you're sensible and pretend not to know, I'll let you keep living here. Even after Shu Bai and I get married, I'll still find time to come and spend it with you. My head throbbed as I listened to her last few sentences. A moment ago, I was wondering if her refusal to tell the truth meant she had actually fallen for me. If that was why she denied her relationship with Shu Bai. Turns out she was just trying to have her cake and eat it too. Huh, you absolute scumbag. Gu Nianji's eyes swept over the 2 suitcases I had packed earlier, and she let out a cold laugh. Hui, are you trying to use this childish running away from home stunt to force me to back down? I was almost driven to laughter by her words. I didn't defend myself. Instead, I put on an expression that was both aggrieved and stubborn. At a time like this, I couldn't be the one to bring up the breakup first. I looked at her, my eyes filled with hurt, tears on the verge of falling. I was performing the role of a heartbroken man to perfection. Gu Nianji, I've stayed by your side for 3 whole years, bringing you handmade lunches every single day. When you were drunk, I brewed hangover soup for you and bathed you. When your stomach illness flared up last time and you were hospitalized for a week, who was it that stayed up all night by your side? I thought we would get married and walk through life together. But now that your white moonlight is back, you treat me like this? Sure enough, a trace of guilt appeared in Gu Nianji's eyes. She reached out, trying to pull me toward her. Hui, I didn't mean it that way. I shoved her hand away and stared at her with bloodshot eyes. Then what did you mean? Speak. Gu Nianji lowered her eyes and fell silent for a long time. Her fingers gripped her handbag, tightening and loosening, then tightening again, as if she were wrestling with an incredibly difficult decision. Finally, she took a deep breath and looked up, her gaze much calmer. She pulled a blank check from her bag, scribbled a long string of digits with a flourish, tore it off, and held it out to me. Hui, these past 3 years, you've been very good to me. I remember everything. I know you love me deeply. I can give you a choice. Either you pretend you don't know anything and stay by my side, but you must not cause a scene in front of Shu Bai. Or, you take this 80 million and leave. We'll call it a clean break. I stared at the long string of zeros following the 8 in front of me. My breath hitched instantly, and my heart nearly leaped out of my chest. Suppressing the wild ecstasy in my soul, I snatched the check from her. I looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. Gu Nianji, true love is priceless. Don't think 80 million can ever make up for what you owe me. I loved you so much, yet this is how you treat me. Gu Nianji, you will owe me for the rest of your life. With those words, I grabbed my suitcase and walked toward the villa's exit in a fit of rage. Hui, Gu Nianji's tearful cry rang out behind me, followed by the rapid tapping of her high heels. She stopped halfway, covering her mouth as she let her tears fall. Hui, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. My hand on the suitcase handle paused for a split second, but I didn't look back. I loaded 2 oversized suitcases into the trunk of my Kian and went straight to the bank. Only when 80 million had been successfully transferred into my account did I finally feel completely at ease. Just as I stepped out of the bank, I received a text from an unknown number. Mr. Hua, I am Shu Bai. Are you interested in sitting down for a chat? Immediately after, a coffee shop address was sent to my phone. I stared at the 2 messages on my phone screen for 2 seconds. Then I looked at the balance notifications sent by the bank. Finally, I shoved the phone back into my pocket and started the car. The cafe Shu Bai had chosen was located in a quiet alley in the south of the city. The storefront wasn't very large. The decor, however, was quite sophisticated. A man sat by the window, wearing a light blue bespoke suit. Hearing the sound of the wind chimes, he looked up, revealing a face that bore a 50% resemblance to mine. But he was scrawnier than I was, his face marked by a sickly pallor. When he saw me, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, a hint of smugness in his eyes. He gestured toward the opposite seat. Mr. Hua, please have a seat. Let me introduce myself. My name is Shu Bai, and I am Gu Nianji's childhood sweetheart. Thank you for looking after Gigi on my behalf during the years I was away. As you know, Gigi comes from a wealthy family. She isn't someone an orphan like you could ever hope to attain. Now that I'm back, if you know what's good for you, you'll leave on your own. That way, you can still keep some of your dignity. Otherwise, you'll only end up humiliating yourself. I looked at the arrogant, smug expression on his face. Suddenly, I found it quite laughable. I feigned humiliation, snapping to my feet as the veins on my forehead throbbed. Cheng Shubai, I've been with Gigi for 3 whole years. She said she only loves me. You think you can just tell me to leave? Who the hell do you think you are? Cheng Shubai could no longer maintain his composed expression. He gripped his coffee cup tightly, his knuckles turning white. Huiyi, he said through gritted teeth. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? My face contorted with rage. I don't give a damn who you are. Just today, Gigi told me not to overthink things, that no one could ever replace me in her heart. Why should I have to leave just because you've returned to the country? Cheng Shubai's face turned from pale to livid, his poise finally shattering. He slammed the coffee cup down onto its saucer with a loud crash. Huiyi, don't you dare refuse my courtesy. You're clinging to Gigi for nothing but money, aren't you? 3 million. To leave Gigi. Is that enough? I stood there, my expression flickering as if I were in the throes of a fierce internal struggle. Only 3 million? Gunyinji already slapped 80 million in my face. But then again, even a mosquito's leg is still meat. Who would turn down money? After a long while, wearing a look of humiliation and resentment, I pulled out my phone and said through clenched teeth, "Mobile transfer," and marked the note as a voluntary gift. Cheng Shubai stared at me for 2 seconds. It was as if he hadn't expected me to change my tune so quickly. His lip twitched, but he still pulled his phone from his pocket and nimbly transferred the money to me. Once I confirmed the money had arrived, I lost interest in staying any longer and turned to leave. But Cheng Shubai called out to me. Huiyi. I stopped and looked at him. The guy had regained that smug, confident look, as if he held all the cards. His voice was laced with mockery. I hope you're a man of your word. Heh, I was already leaving, and he still felt the need to stop me? Wasn't he just asking for humiliation? I smiled, looking at him with eyes full of sympathy and pity. Don't worry, Mr. Cheng. Since I've taken your money, I will definitely do what I promised. Anyway, I've already slept with your future wife for 3 years. She even gave her first time to me. In fact, I should thank you, Mr. Cheng. If you hadn't left Gigi, I wouldn't have had the chance, right? Enjoy your coffee. I have things to do, so I'll be going now. Cheng Shubai's face turned deathly pale in an instant. He stood there frozen as if struck by lightning. His mind was filled with nothing but that sentence. I've already slept with your future wife for 3 years. A massive surge of humiliation and rage rushed to his head. After saying my piece, I strode out of the cafe. Immediately after, the sound of Cheng Shubai smashing a cup and his hysterical cursing drifted from behind me. I couldn't be bothered with him. I got straight into my car and sped away. What a low-level amateur, trying to act superior in front of me. He can just deal with it. The next day, I spent 15 million to buy an ordinary villa. For the time being, I only hired 1 housekeeper. I still have to be careful with my money. I hadn't just been idling away these past few years. Relying on my good looks, I shared handsome photos and the daily life of the wealthy every day. Occasionally, I would upload some dance videos synced to the beat. Over those 3 years, the follower count on my main account had grown to 500,000. Even if I didn't go out to work, I could still earn some living expenses through daily live streams, couldn't I? That night, I went to a bar to celebrate. Not long after I sat down, a crisp voice rang in my ear. Hey handsome, may I sit here? I slightly raised my eyes, and a pair of top-tier manga-style legs were on full display right in front of me. I immediately choked on my breath. Holy crap, these legs were even longer and fairer than Gunyinji's. Looking up further, an exquisite, near-perfect face slammed into my field of vision. Meeting her subtly seductive gaze, I froze in a daze. Wasn't this Jiang Wanwan, Gunyinji's arch-nemesis? What was she doing here? Jiang Wanwan and Gunyinji were the 2 most famous beauty CEOs in Haishur. For some reason, ever since Jiang Wanwan took office, she had been at Gu Group's throat. The nearly 30% market share loss suffered by the Gu Group was all her doing. Gunyinji hated this woman with a burning passion. I had run into Jiang Wanwan a few times while accompanying Gunyinji to business parties. She always looked at me with a strange, resentful gaze. I could never figure out what I had done to offend her. Jiang Wanwan seemed satisfied with my reaction. Without waiting for a response, she gracefully sat down beside me and stared at me with a faint smirk. What's this? You finally broke up with Gunyanji? I thought you'd be her lapdog for the rest of your life. I shot her an annoyed look. Gunyanji is a total bitch. Why wouldn't I dump a woman who wants to have her cake and eat it too? Was I supposed to keep her around for the holidays? Aren't you heartbroken? I was pretty upset at first, but seeing that President Jiang is even more beautiful than Gunyanji, I suddenly don't feel so bad anymore. Jiang Wanwan covered her mouth and giggled, shooting me a flirtatious look. Smooth talker. You flatter me, you flatter me. Noticing my eyes were glued to her legs, she gave a soft laugh. Do you like my legs? They're gorgeous, I replied reflexively. But if I can only look and not touch, well, isn't that just a waste? She suddenly leaned in close. Her warm breath tickled my ear as a faint, delicate fragrance filled my nose. Why don't you be my boyfriend? I'll let you look every day. She whispered. I have plenty of short skirts. Do you prefer black stockings or white ones? That warm breath, the scent, and that seductive voice made my heart skip a beat. Asterisk, holy crap. She's hitting on me. This is blatant seduction. Stay calm. Stay calm. There's always a catch when things seem too good to be true. Asterisk. President Jiang. I stammered, swallowing hard. My voice sounded a bit airy even to my own ears. Don't you think this is moving a little too fast? We've only been sitting down to talk for less than 5 minutes. Jiang Wanwan sat close to me, the soft touch of her arm brushing against mine. Huiyi, as soon as Gunyanji's white moonlight came back, she kicked you to the curb immediately. Don't you want to get your revenge? I'm Gunyanji's arch-nemesis. If you're with me, wouldn't that just infuriate her? I suppressed the urge in my heart and looked at her warily. Then why don't you go find Qing Shubai? Everyone knows he's Gunyanji's white moonlight. Wouldn't it be more effective if you went after him? Jiang Wanwan scoffed. Qing Shubai? Him? As if he's even worthy of my attention. I investigated him long ago. He's been playing the field quite a bit abroad these past 3 years. And he's quite weak in that department. His ex-girlfriend abroad leaked that not only is he small, but he also lasts no more than 3 minutes every time. Sometimes only 30 seconds. Her voice was full of obvious disgust as she gave me a you-know-what-I-mean look. The hand holding my glass jerked violently. The golden liquid nearly splashed out. The image of Qing Shubai's pale, gaunt face flashed through my mind. I was instantly amused and quickly set the glass back on the table. Is what you're saying true? Jiang Wanwan arched her eyebrows. She straightened her posture slightly, crossing her fair, slender legs and shifting her position. The hem of her short skirt was pulled taut against the tops of her thighs. Guaranteed. I made sure to investigate thoroughly. The guy even has an illegitimate daughter abroad. The Chung family's overseas investments failed, and they're on the brink of bankruptcy. That's why he had to return home to seek a marriage alliance. Then why approach me? I reevaluated the impossibly beautiful woman before me. Is it because you know Qing Shubai is incompetent that you're settling for second best? Hearing this, Jiang Wanwan gave me a resentful glare. Huiyi, you're so handsome. Are you really that lacking in confidence? She reached out a finger and lightly poked my chest. It wasn't a hard poke, but it was definitely flirtatious. I'm coming to you because I've had my eye on you for a long time. Whether Qing Shubai is capable or not, what does that have to do with me? I never liked him anyway. I stared at Jiang Wanwan's face for a long while. There was a sense of familiarity, but I couldn't quite place it. Then what exactly is the grudge between you and Gunyanji? Jiang Wanwan said mysteriously, It's a secret. I'll tell you later. Just tell me, do you agree or not? Damn it, to hell with it. With a 99 rated super beauty practically delivering herself to my doorstep, if I wimped out now, it would be an affront to nature. I spoke solemnly. Then your legs. Let me feel. Feel them for a bit, and I'll agree to it immediately. Jiang Wanwan looked at me for 2 seconds before saying hesitantly, Really just one touch? I swear. I nodded vigorously, speaking with absolute certainty. After a long while, as if making a monumental decision, Jiang Wanwan bit her lip and said, Then. All right then. I certainly wasn't going to be polite. It wasn't my style to pass up a good thing. My heart pounded wildly as I happily reached out and felt them. So soft, so smooth. The feel was more than a notch above Gunyenji's legs. I immediately closed my eyes and began to enjoy the sensation. 3 minutes later, Jiang Wanwan glared at me with eyes spitting fire, gritting her teeth as she spoke. It's been 3 minutes. Have you had enough yet? I curled my lip and said, my hand is on your leg and I haven't taken it off yet, so at most it counts as half a touch. We agreed on one. Are you being a poor sport? Hui, you bastard. The next second, she threw me over her shoulder with a clean, swift move and pinned me firmly to the sofa. Damn it. It was one thing for this woman to be beautiful, but her combat skills were this high too? Where was the justice in this world? That night, I shamelessly followed Jiang Wanwan back to her villa. What a joke! Since I had agreed to be her boyfriend, of course we had to live together. After all, the pavilion closest to the water gets the moon first. During this time, Jiang Wanwan and I began our life of cohabitation. Although I could only look and not eat, my mood improved significantly by facing such a delicate and charming beauty every day. With the occasional flirting and teasing, life was truly pleasant. One night, heavy rain fell, and there was thunder and lightning outside. Clutching my quilt, I stood pitifully at Jiang Wanwan's door. Sister Wanwan, I've been afraid of thunder since I was a kid. I'm too scared to sleep alone. Can I sleep with you? Jiang Wanwan stood at the door, huffing with anger. She was wearing a white lace nightgown with a very short hem that revealed her long, shapely legs. Her hair was draped loosely over her shoulders, and since she must have just finished showering, the tips were still slightly damp. A faint fragrance wafted toward me. She stared at me, gritting her teeth. Hui, the day before yesterday you said you were afraid of the dark, yesterday you said you had a nightmare, and today you're afraid of thunder. Just admit you're lusting after my body. I was stunned for a moment. How did you know? Was I being that obvious? Jiang Wanwan didn't say anything, just stared at me intently. I remembered Brother Shanjia saying that speaking the truth is half the battle won. I looked at her shapely thighs, steeled my resolve, grit my teeth, and shouted at the top of my lungs. Yes, I'm lusting after your body, Jiang Wanwan. So what? When I shouted those words, my voice echoed through the entire villa for 3 seconds. It was only a little past 8 in the evening. The butler and the servants hadn't gone to bed yet. Upon hearing my voice, they all froze in their tracks simultaneously. One by one, they looked upstairs in utter shock. Then, I heard the crisp clink of porcelain from downstairs. It was likely Uncle Fu, the butler, losing his grip on his teacup lid. Jiang Wanwan's expression shifted from huffy to dumbfounded. Hui! She rushed over, hurriedly covering my mouth. Lowering her voice, she hissed through clenched teeth. You're crazy. What? Why did you yell so loudly? Are you trying to get killed? I saw Jiang Wanwan's pretty face flush bright red with embarrassment. She looked incredibly cute. I couldn't help myself. I pulled her small hand away, gave her a loud smooch on the cheek, and bolted. This woman was formidable in a fight. If I were a step too slow, I was afraid she really would break my third leg. At a 100-meter sprint pace, I dove into my room and slammed the door shut with a loud bang. Jiang Wanwan's exasperated voice drifted in from the hallway. Hui, you bastard. That day, Jiang Wanwan had a business gala and dragged me along. After getting out of the car, I kept trying to hold her hand. She refused, her face blushing. On the third attempt, she finally didn't shake me off. She turned her head away, pretending not to look at me, but a smile flickered in the corners of her eyes. I kept whispering made-up gossip about Uncle Fu and Annie Wong in her ear. Jiang Wanwan laughed until she shook, playfully punching my chest with her small fists and telling me to be more serious. What I didn't know was that this scene was witnessed by Gunyenji and Cheng Shubai. Gunyenji was so furious her lungs were about to explode, her delicate fists clenched tight. Cheng Shubai also noticed us. Seeing me holding hands with a woman even more beautiful and captivating than Gunyenji, he was consumed with jealousy. The thought of what I had said to him in the cafe that day made his teeth itch with hatred. Gigi, isn't that Huiyi? That scumbag. He found someone new right after leaving you. This woman is dressed so provocatively. She's probably nothing good either. Gunyenji turned to look at Cheng Shubai, her tone turning cold. Shubai, don't talk nonsense. That woman is Jiang Wanwan, the true heiress of the Jiang family. Years ago, when she was first brought back to the Jiang family from the orphanage, she nearly died at the hands of the fake heiress. She only rose to power 3 years ago, fighting her way up step by step. She's been going against me these past few years. I have no idea why she's been so aggressive. Cheng Shubai was stunned. He hadn't expected that this insanely beautiful woman was actually the eldest miss of the Jiang family, whose reputation had been unrivaled these past few years. The look he gave me grew a few shades more sinister. Gigi, Hui just broke up with you, and already he's hooked up with your rival. It's truly despicable. Gu Nianji gave a cold laugh. He just wants to provoke me. How childish. Having said that, she turned and walked toward the banquet hall. Cheng Shubai shot me a venomous look before hurrying after her. Mimicking my earlier actions, he tried to take Gu Nianji's hand. To his surprise, Gu Nianji jerked away immediately as if she had been electrocuted. What are you doing? The moment the questioning words left her mouth, even she was stunned. She used to dream of being with Cheng Shubai. Now that Cheng Shubai had returned to the country to find her and was constantly trying to please her, she no longer felt her previous anticipation or throb of excitement. Faced with Cheng Shubai's touch, she actually felt an instinctive, physical revulsion. That churning nausea in her stomach surged up once again. She covered her mouth, forcibly suppressing the urge. She assumed it was just because she had been under too much work pressure lately. She really needed to find time to visit the hospital. Seeing the ugly look on Cheng Shubai's face, she felt she had gone a bit too far and quickly comforted him. Shubai, don't overthink it. I didn't mean it like that. Cheng Shubai suppressed his fury. Before, Gu Nianji used to follow him around every day. Now that the Cheng family needed something from the Gu family, he was forced to lower himself and go to great lengths to please her. Asterisk, she's already been played with by someone else for 3 years, yet she's still acting like a virtuous martyr in front of me. What a bitch. Asterisk, despite his thoughts, he put on an understanding facade. It's all right, Gigi. We were apart for 3 whole years. I can understand why things feel a bit distant. We're getting engaged soon anyway, so a few more days doesn't matter. Hearing Cheng Shubai's affectionate words, Gu Nianji felt no joy. Instead, her feelings grew even more complicated. Business banquets like this were rather boring. Jiang Wanwan had gone off to talk business, navigating her way among the corporate tycoons with ease. I sat on a sofa in the corner drinking red wine. With no one to bother me, it was quite pleasant. To my surprise, Gu Nianji approached with a wine glass in hand, her face dark. Hui, I didn't expect you to go as far as having Jiang Wanwan act along with you just to spite me. I know that breaking up with you has made you feel wronged, but do you really think this playing hard to get tactic will work? Hui, enough is enough. We aren't from the same world, after all. I looked at her condescending posture and suddenly found it somewhat laughable. Gu Nianji. I set down my glass and curled my lips into a smirk. Do you think I'm putting on a show for you? What else? She gave a cold laugh. Look at your background, and then look at who Jiang Wanwan is. The men she deigns to notice are either wealthy or powerful. Why on earth would she take an interest in someone like? She paused, leaving the rest unsaid. But the silence was more piercing than the words themselves. Someone like what? I stared at her with a half-smile. A poor kid who grew up in an orphanage? A bit-part actor playing the role of a stand-in boyfriend? Or a kept man who lived off a woman for 3 years just to scrape together a bit of savings? Her face turned pale for a moment, and she grew inexplicably flustered. I didn't mean it like that. You didn't mean it like that? I looked at her mockingly. President Gu, since we aren't from the same world, then what do you mean by coming here in public to entangle yourself with your ex-boyfriend? She was choked up by my words, her mouth opening and then closing. Hui. Her voice dropped lower, tinged with a hint of awkwardness. I came to find you because I don't want you to use this method to get revenge on me. I understand you're angry, but don't ruin yourself over it. Jiang Wanwan has impossibly high standards. She isn't someone you can handle. Looking at her, I'm doing this for your own good expression. I found it both absurd and ridiculous. Gu Nianji, I said, whether I can handle her or not is my business. Didn't you say we aren't from the same world? Then there's no need for you to worry about mine. Besides, as the saying goes, To die beneath a peony is to remain romantic even in death. Jiang Wanwan is so beautiful that even if I do ruin myself, I'd do it gladly. What's it to you? You. Gu Nianji's eyes instantly reddened, and her brows furrowed tightly. Hui you. Don't be so ungrateful. When you actually get hurt and come back to beg me, I won't even spare you a second glance. After spitting out those harsh words, Gu Nianji left with a sullen face. At some point, Jiang Wanwan had walked up to my side. The grin on her face was so wide that even an AK-47 couldn't have suppressed it. Giggle. Hui, you're really something. The business dinner had barely started, and Gu Nianji hadn't even had the chance to talk to many of her partners before you chased her away in a fit of rage. If I don't snatch these partners for myself, I'd be doing a disservice to your hard work. My eyes remained fixed on her long, fair, and slender legs. Then how is Wanwan going to reward me? Let me be clear. I won't accept anything except for you giving yourself to me. Jiang Wanwan gave me a reproachful look and rolled her eyes. The nerve of you. Depends on your performance. After saying that, she swayed gracefully away to attend to her business. The way her waist moved was truly captivating, a picture of elegance and allure. I almost started drooling just watching her. Over the next few days, the relationship between Jiang Wanwan and me heated up rapidly. Sometimes, when I reached out to touch her beautiful legs or her slender waist, she would only offer a token show of anger. One day, Jiang Wanwan was in a meeting and was suffering from a stomachache. She sent me her prescription from a previous hospital visit and asked me to go pick up the medicine for her. I headed off, feeling quite pleased with myself. Meanwhile, inside the hospital, Gu Nianji's face turned pale as she looked at her medical report. What? I'm pregnant. The doctor pushed up his glasses and spoke solemnly. Ms. Gu, I suggest you consider this carefully. According to our detailed examination, your ovarian function is very weak. Conceiving naturally this time was a very low probability event in itself. If you choose to terminate the pregnancy now, it might be very difficult to get pregnant again in the future. Gu Nianji was completely stunned. Beside her, Cheng Shubai clenched his fists tightly, his face ashen, looking more miserable than if he had swallowed a fly. He looked as if he wanted to cut me into 1,000 pieces on the spot. The doctor added another remark. Of course, this is just my personal medical advice. The final decision rests with you. After leaving the doctor's office, Cheng Shubai hurriedly voiced his stance. Gigi, your body is in a unique condition. If you really get an abortion, you might never be able to conceive again. Why don't you have it? I'll raise it. As Cheng Shubai said this, his voice was exceptionally tender. Gu Nianji did not answer. She walked silently through the hospital corridor and stopped in front of a window. She happened to see me getting out of my car, replying to a message on my phone, and then entering the hospital doors. Cheng Shubai walked up behind her and reached out to place his hand on her shoulder. Gu Nianji frowned and pulled away. Shubai, go back first. I want to be alone for a while. Cheng Shubai's hand hung in midair before he clenched it into a fist and pulled it back. His tone was as gentle as ever. All right, Gigi, rest well, and call me if you need anything. I'll come over at any time. Cheng Shubai turned to leave, a sinister glint flashing in his eyes. I had just come out of the hospital when I bumped into Gu Nianji at the main entrance. She was clutching a medical examination report tightly in her hand. She subconsciously hid the report behind her back before walking up to me. Hui, can we talk? I watched her deliberate attempt to hide the report, then looked at her haggard face, which even light makeup couldn't conceal. I shifted the bag of medicine to my other hand. President Gu, we've already broken up. What is there to talk about? She bit her lip, suppressing her anger. Are you getting medicine for Jiang Wanwan? I replied irritably. President Gu, do I need to report to an ex-girlfriend about who I'm getting medicine for? Gu Nianji's face darkened. Hui, what exactly is your relationship with Jiang Wanwan? Looking at her angry expression, I suddenly found it somewhat amusing. Wait, whatever relationship I have with Jiang Wanwan, what does that have to do with you? She took a deep breath, and for some reason, her eyes began to redden. Her voice even trembled slightly. Hui, do you have to speak to me like this? Then how do you want me to speak? I looked at her. President Gu, you're the one who dumped me. You chose Cheng Shubai, so we've gone our separate ways. Now you're coming over to ask about my relationship with Jiang Wanwan? We're not even from the same world anymore. What business is it of yours? She stood on the steps, the hem of her dress fluttering in the wind, looking unexpectedly aggrieved. Fine, okay. I won't ask anymore, all right? Just go. I didn't bother with her and turned to leave without a moment's hesitation. She shouted behind me with a sob in her voice. Hui, you're really leaving? You bastard. Get back here. If you leave, I'll never forgive you for the rest of my life. I didn't stop, thinking she was crazy and making no sense. A month later, Gu Nianji still got engaged to Cheng Shubai. To everyone's surprise, that very night, Gu Nianji had Cheng Shubai sent to jail. The reason was that Cheng Shubai had tried to force himself on her against her will. I was dumbfounded when I heard the news from Jiang Wanwan. Jiang Wanwan winked at me with a mysterious smile. Hui, do you know why Gu Nianji did that? I stared at her blankly. Why? Because I sent her all the evidence of the mess Cheng Shubai made while he was abroad, of course. Let me tell you, once a woman knows she's been deceived, she can be so ruthless she even scares herself. She narrowed her eyes and gave me a fierce warning. I'm telling you, if you ever dare to lie to me in the future, you're dead meat. I ignored Jiang Wanwan's threat and continued asking. You sent the evidence against Cheng Shubai to Gu Nianji? When? Last night. Jiang Wanwan lifted her phone and gave it a little shake. I've been collecting that stuff on him for over 6 months. I just hadn't decided how to use it yet. Yesterday, when I heard the news that Gu Nianji was going to get engaged to him, I just sent it over. I was completely baffled by Jiang Wanwan's move. Since she and Gu Nianji were arch-rivals, she surely should have wanted to see Gu Nianji jump into the fire. Instead, she had actually helped her out. Wanwan, what exactly is the grudge between you and Gu Nianji? You used to oppose her at every turn, and now you're helping her. What are you actually after? Jiang Wanwan pouted and turned her face away. I only did it to get back at him for you. You don't know a good heart when you see one. After saying that, she went straight upstairs to her room and slammed the door with a loud bang. I was stunned again. Last time we had dinner, I had casually mentioned how Cheng Shubai had asked to meet me at a cafe for a talk. I had recounted everything Cheng Shubai said to Jiang Wanwan in full detail. At the time, she said something about finding a chance to get back at him for me. I hadn't taken it to heart. I didn't expect her to actually mean it. Could Jiang Wanwan really like me? Heh, women. Over the next few days, Gu Nianji went crazy. She sent me messages and called me incessantly. I found it annoying and just blacklisted her. Unexpectedly, one night a few days later, she still managed to find her way to the Jiang family villa. At the time, I was in the courtyard filming material for a short video. When Gu Nianji saw me, she began ringing the doorbell outside the gate frantically. Hui, get out here. You bastard. Why are you living in Jiang Wanwan's house? Come out and explain yourself. I put down my phone and looked at Gu Nianji standing outside the iron fence gate. Her expression was haggard, and she was wearing loose-fitting clothes, looking a bit bloated. Her hair was messy, blown about by the night wind. I walked over, opened the iron gate, and looked at her. Gu Nianji, haven't you caused enough of a scene? Gu Nianji looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. I'm making a scene? Hui, why aren't you answering my calls? Why did you block me? And you're still living in Jiang Wanwan's house. What exactly is your relationship? I looked down at her with cold eyes. Gu Nianji, I made it very clear to you last time. We are not from the same world. What I do or where I live, is any of that your business? Gu Nianji stared at me blankly, finally realizing that I was no longer the obedient lapdog I used to be. She finally panicked and rushed forward to grab me. Hui, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said those things to you. During this time, I've thought it through. I love you. Please come back to me, okay? I looked at her and sneered. Gu Nianji, we were together for 3 years. It would be a lie to say there were no feelings at all. After all, I have a heart too. But what was the first thing you did when your white moonlight returned to the country? It was to dump me. Of course, I took your money too. We both got what we wanted, so I don't blame you. I paused, then continued. But now that you've realized your white moonlight is a piece of trash, you regret it and come crawling back to me. What do you take me for? Gu Nianji stood before me, tears welling in her eyes. No, it's not like that. Hey, you must care about me being with Cheng Shubai, right? Don't worry, I didn't let him get his way. I pushed him away and even sent him to jail. I'm clean. You. You have to believe me. Seeing that I remained silent, she hurriedly fumbled through her bag, pulled out a black card, and shoved it into my hand. Hey, I know you like money. Come back to me, okay? This card is yours. Use it however you want. I looked at the black card in my hand. If this had been a few years ago when I had nothing, I would have accepted it on my knees. When a person is truly poor to a certain point, things like dignity and integrity are nothing but illusions. But now I don't lack money. I want to stand tall with my head held high. I want to throw wads of cash in people's faces and humiliate those who once looked down on me, instead of standing here being humiliated by others. I slammed the card directly into her face. Get out. I pointed at her and snarled. Gu Nianji, I'll say it one last time. We are finished. Don't fucking pester me again. After saying this, I slammed the iron gate shut, ignoring her cries as I turned and walked back into the villa. Hui, come back, you bastard. I entered the villa and went upstairs, only to see Jiang Wanwan leaning against the doorframe in a thin nightgown, waiting for me. Those long, shapely legs and her seductive gaze nearly snatched my soul away. I rushed up in a few strides, pinning her against the corner, greedily inhaling the soul-stirring fragrance emanating from her. Jiang Wanwan looked up, her delicate red lips inches away, her warm breath brushing against my chin. She lightly traced my cheek with her slender fingers. Giggle. Refusing even a black card? Someone is truly heartless. You saw that? I watched from the balcony, she chuckled. The sound of that card hitting his face was so loud I could hear it all the way from the second floor. I stared at her with a half smile. Then do you think I did the right thing or not? She didn't answer. Instead, she traced circles on my chest with her finger. Hui, you've certainly grown a backbone now. I couldn't stand tall before because I didn't have the confidence to back it up. And now you have it. Of course, I looked at her, the corners of my mouth curling upward. Now, you are my confidence. Jiang Wanwan's breathing instantly hitched. The next second, she wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me frantically. Woman, you're playing with fire. I scooped her up and rushed into the bedroom in a feverish hurry. She looped her arms around my neck and whispered in my ear. Brother Hui, I'm afraid of the pain. That night, I was exceptionally gentle. Jiang Wanwan held me tightly, as if she wanted to melt me into her embrace. I could feel the intensity of her love. Hours later, as I held the limp Jiang Wanwan, I hesitated for a moment before finally asking the question lingering in my heart. Wanwan, you say you like me, but why? Jiang Wanwan looked up, her cheeks flushed and her eyes shimmering with tears. She looked at me piteously. Brother Hui, do you really not recognize me anymore? Do you remember the Xiangyang orphanage? My mind buzzed as I stared at her in disbelief. You're Wanwan? Jiang Wanwan. I froze completely, as if struck by lightning. Xiangyang orphanage, Wanwan, Jiang Wanwan. Shards of memories from the depths of my mind came rushing back, mingling with images of gray concrete floors, rusted iron bed frames, and a peeling slide, and a little girl who always followed behind me. She was quite small when she first arrived, her voice still sounding like a toddler's as she said her name was Jiang Wanwan. Back then, she was timid and looked like a little elf in her beautiful princess dress. Among a group of children who never had enough to eat or wear, she was completely out of place. The jealous children always found ways to ostracize and bully her. It was I who stood up and kept her protected behind me. Because of her, I lost count of how many fights I got into. There were several times when I ended up bleeding, and she would be so scared that she'd burst into loud wails. Brother Hui, does it hurt? Brother Hui, you're bleeding so much. Are you going to die? If you die, what will I do? Wah. Under my protection, she grew up bit by bit. When she was 10 years old, a girl who was jealous of her lured her to the edge of a pond and pushed her in. Just as she was about to sink to the bottom, I jumped in without a second thought and saved her. I was quite thin and weak back then. I used every ounce of my strength to pull Jiang Wanwan out, nearly collapsing from exhaustion. My throat was choked with water, and I coughed so hard it felt like my lungs were turning inside out. Wanwan was the first to recover. She knelt beside me, her face a complete mess from crying. Brother Hui, what's wrong? Don't scare me. Don't die. If you die, what will Wan do? She cried inconsolably, her face covered in a blur of snot and tears. Stop crying, I said, my voice incredibly hoarse. You're so loud. Once she saw that I had stopped coughing, she threw herself onto me, hugging me and crying even harder. Wah! You scared me to death. I don't want you to die. If you die, I won't live either. All right, all right. She was squeezing me so hard I couldn't breathe, and I coughed twice more. I'm not dying. Don't cry. It wasn't until junior high that she was finally found and reclaimed by the Jiang family. She clung to me, refusing to leave no matter what. She cried and made a scene, insisting that I go home with her. It was I who forcibly pried her hands off me and pushed her away. After that, I never heard from her again. Life is just like that sometimes. For some people, once they turn away, it's for a lifetime. I was young then, and I didn't bother to find out exactly which Jiang family it was. Years later, I worked part-time jobs while putting myself through school. I lived in poverty, yet I never thought of looking for her. Back then, I thought to myself, that girl has probably long forgotten me. Over the past few years, rumors had been circulating in certain circles. They said Jiang Wanwan was the true heiress of the Jiang family, but hadn't had an easy life. It was only recently that the family began to value her. Step by step, she had climbed her way up to the position of CEO of the Jiang Corporation. But a woman changes so much as she grows. I never once associated her with the frail little girl in my memory. After Jiang Wanwan and I truly got together, she treated me exceptionally well. She bought me luxury watches and haute couture clothing. She even bought me 3 luxury cars all at once, telling me to rotate through them as I pleased. She gave me a black card and told me to spend as I pleased. I didn't refuse. What's wrong with spending my girlfriend's money? She's rich anyway. For someone like me with low moral standards, I felt no guilt at all. This woman was insatiable, clinging to me every night and refusing to let go. Luckily, I was more than up to the task, otherwise I really couldn't have handled it. Gu Nianji quieted down for a while. I thought she wouldn't come looking for me anymore. That day, I'd just taken a photographer to the park we often visited to shoot material when I saw Gu Nianji sitting on a bench. She looked a bit bloated, wearing a loose windbreaker, her expression even more haggard than last time. Her hair was much drier and duller. When she saw me, her eyes lit up instantly. It was too late to hide. She rushed over in big strides, her eyes filled with pleading. I was wrong. Not a single day has gone by these days that I haven't thought of you. You still have me in your heart, don't you? You used to bring me a love lunch every day. Whenever I drank too much, no matter how late it was, you'd make me hangover soup and help me take a bath. When my stomach trouble flared up and I was hospitalized for a week, you stayed with me all night without sleeping. She stared at my eyes intensely, as if trying to see something. You still love me. You're just still angry with me, aren't you? I struck her roughly and looked at her coldly. Gu Nianji, I've made it very clear. We were just using each other before. You're so rich and beautiful. You shouldn't be short of men. Why keep pestering me? We're all adults. Breakups should be dignified. Don't make me look down on you, okay? Gu Nianji stared at me blankly. It seemed she couldn't believe I would say something so heartless. The next second, her emotions completely collapsed. She pulled a medical report from her bag and slapped it in my face. Fuyi, you bastard. Scum. I'm pregnant. It's your child. And now you're saying we were just using each other? Do you have any conscience at all? Look for yourself. Look carefully. I took the report, glanced at it casually, and scoffed. Oh, pregnant. Gu Nianji, you just can't stand me being with Jiang Wanwan, can you? What? Me being with her makes you that unhappy? You even used such a despicable trick as faking a pregnancy to lie to me. I threw the report to the ground and glared at her. Gu Nianji, you've disappointed me so much. Gu Nianji looked at me in despair. It turns out people really do laugh when they are truly speechless. As tears streamed down her face, she began to chuckle. Fuyi, we were together for 3 whole years. Is this really what you think of me? I looked at her coldly. Otherwise, I watched as Gu Nianji's body staggered, nearly falling over. The light in her eyes dimmed bit by bit. She opened her mouth, but said nothing. She silently picked up the medical report from the ground and walked away into the distance. Her figure slowly vanished until she was completely lost in the crowd. After Jiang Wanwan took full control of the Jiang group, she and I got married. Later, we had 3 children. The eldest son took her surname, Jiang, and was raised to be the heir to the Jiang group. The other son and daughter took my surname, Hua. Many years later, Jiang Wanwan and I were playing in the park with our 3 children. The younger son and daughter suddenly ran over, crying uncontrollably. Daddy, Mommy, Big Brother is fighting with someone. That person looks exactly like Big Brother. That person even said his daddy's name is also Huiyi. Big Brother was so indignant that they started fighting. I didn't take it seriously, assuming it was just kids talking nonsense. Wanwan and I rushed over to take a look. The 2 boys were locked in a fierce brawl, looking almost like twins. I was completely stunned. I quickly looked at Jiang Wanwan and stammered. Wife, I'm innocent. Let me explain, I really don't know him. Just then, a beautiful young woman rushed over. It was actually Gu Nianji, whom I hadn't seen in years. What? She was also stunned when she saw us. Huiyi Wanwan. She called our names, her tone as calm as if she had just bumped into an old friend. Long time no see. Jiang Wanwan responded with a smile. Gu Nianji forcibly pulled the boy away. The boy seemed reluctant to leave, crying and looking back to call me daddy. I instantly remembered how, years ago, Gu Nianji had tearfully thrown a pregnancy report at me. Guys, the sky is falling. On the way back, I was still trying to figure out how to explain everything to Jiang Wanwan. Instead, she took my arm and leaned intimately against my shoulder. All right, hubby, that is actually your child. I've known for a long time. I froze instantly. You knew all along. MHM. She nodded, her tone nonchalant. Back then, after Cheng Shubai was sent away, the Cheng family's dreams of a marriage alliance were shattered, and their situation became increasingly difficult. Gu Nianji and I joined forces to carve up the Cheng family. Over the years, I've occasionally met Gu Nianji for afternoon tea. The Gu Corporation has been on a downward spiral, and she hasn't had it easy these past few years. The child is also pitiful. If you have the time, you should go see him. After all, the child is innocent no matter what. I stared at her in total astonishment. Honey, you're not angry. The child was conceived before you 2 broke up. What do I have to be angry about? Honey. You're so good to me. Jiang Wanwan looked up and planted a kiss on my cheek. Hubby, you are too.